Today, I'm going to show you how to connect Power BI to your SQL Server. It's a very simple and straightforward process, and you're only going to need three credentials. The first one is the server address. The second one is the database name, which is an option. And the third one is the SQL script. So let's jump into it. First and foremost, I will open up my Azure Data Studio. That's what I use to write my SQL query. There are many other options in the market, but I prefer using Azure Data Studio. Then trying to connect into my server, I have a local host server. It's a server on my local computer. Click on connect. I'm using the first option, SQL Express. It's populated here. This is the server address, and I would recommend you copy this and keep it somewhere for future reference. Connect. In my Azure Data Studio, I have created multiple databases because I've done multiple projects. As you can see, these are the different databases that I have, but I intend to use the COVID portfolio for the purpose of this video. Now let's check out what the tables in that database look like. So looking at my databases, COVID portfolio, the tables. Expand this view just a little bit. And the first table, database, object, all with COVID data. So let's see the columns in that first table. We have the ISO code, the continent, location, date, total cases, new cases, total deaths, new deaths. So this is a table that contains information about continents, locations, and all these other factors related to the scourge, the COVID-19 scourge, right? So now I'm going to go into my Power BI desktop. I'm going to wait for that to load. The main reason, advantage why you should connect to your database is it's easier to pull information directly so that you can visualize them on your Power BI. For the most part, people connect to Excel files while creating visuals, but sometimes you might be in a position where you need to connect to the database. So I ignored the first page of my reports. I'm going to open a brand new page on page 2 and show you how to connect. So to connect to the SQL server, you go to this option, the fourth option in data group, SQL server, click. And if you remember, I told you to save your server name earlier because it'll be useful. So I have mine saved and I'll paste it right here. Localhost express. The database name, in my case, it's the COVID portfolio, like I showed you earlier. So I'll paste it here and it's optional. If you don't put the database name, it's still going to work, the connection. However, you might not be able to use the direct query method. You might only be able to use the import method. And as the names suggest, it's the same way it's described. If you import the data, then it's stored. It imports a portion of the data on the database, store it on the Power BI for you to perform your analysis. If you use the direct query method, then you're directly pulling information from the database. Nothing is stored on your Power BI, and you can still run reports. But if you're going to use the direct query option, you always have to use to put the database name. And then finally, in the advanced option, you have to write in your SQL statement, just like it says here in this box over here. And I'm going to go back to my Azure Data Studio, just so you see we have an idea of what's going on. In this database here, the COVID data. Let's run a quick select statement to see what we have here. So I ran a quick 1000 select top 1000, selected all the columns from the database objects, also the table. So what I'm going to try to pull out from here is a table that contains the location, the continent, total cases, that's total COVID cases, total deaths, and the total population. It'll be in a group by statement because I have to use the max function. But I'm just going to show you what I'm going to do here. So this is the script that I'm going to run. Open a new page, or I might as well just write it here. So this statement here is select location, the total cases, total deaths, total population, and the continent. So I'm selecting 5 columns and I'm grouping by the location and the continent, right? When I run this query, it produces this information. I have 244 rows, which shows different locations, the total cases per location, the total deaths, and the total population, and also the continent. I grouped by the continent and the location. So I'm going to go back to my Power BI screen and type in that same SQL statement. The same SQL query to select location, total cases, total death, population, and continent. And then once I click on OK, let's see what Power BI does. It generates a report. So this report can then be thrown into Power Query and modified if necessary. This is the Power Query screen. I'm just going to close and apply because I don't really have much to do. But as usual, as an analyst, you might need to double check each column of the new table that you're about to analyze. Make sure you have this column, for example, total debt. I want to make sure it's in decimal numbers. If necessary, I can remove the null values and replace them with a 0, but I'm just going to leave them as blank for now, and then close and apply. And that's query 2. Query 2 is what I just pulled in from my database after connecting my Power BI to my SQL database. So from query 2, I have the following. I'm just going to create a quick table just so I can showcase what I have. I chose table visual, which is this one. And then I populate the continent as the first row, the location, second row, population, third row, total number of cases as my fourth row, and the total deaths in the 5th row. So this way I directly connected my Power BI to a SQL database and I have drawn out information. Now I can perform some analysis and some extra visualization as needed to produce the end results like you see on the screen. So thank you for watching the video. Just a quick way to connect Power BI to a SQL database if necessary.